Hello and welcome to the Redmen TV. It is the deep dive. I'm Chris Pajak. That fella right there to my right hand side, the left hand side as you're looking at it, is Josh Williams at Distance Covered, producing the best Liverpool FC substack in the world. Oh, how they laughed not 2 weeks ago, Josh. Oh, how they laughed when we picked none other than Anthony Gordon as our top pick for a forward signing. Ha 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 ha! I could hear them. I could see the comments. What are you picking him for? He looks like Claire Balding, all this type of stuff. Oh, they laughed. But we have had the last laugh because now Liverpool have been linked with him. Liverpool were offered him, and now every Liverpool fan seems to want him, Josh. Oh, how they laugh.
Is that what we're buying? Is that we buying the fact that they offered us him, not the Newcastle end?
Yeah, no,
it's different stories, isn't it?
Completely different, and I'm not having that we went to them.
It's suspicious, like, innit? But I like the link, though, as many people would expect. He was on both of our lists, really, the other week.
Top of?
Yeah.
Oh, how they laughed.
Just keep saying that for the next half an hour, mate. We'll just keep going with that, But yeah, I like the link. Good player. Don't know if it'll happen, though.
No.
Feels like a long shot still.
It does, and it obviously depends on Diaz, doesn't it, and moving him on, I think. And I think that's the right thing as well. Listen, I've been a staunch supporter of Diaz in the face of loads of people, talking to me saying, why all this, like, he doesn't score enough and all that. Like, I get all of that. But I always thought it was a bit of better the devil you know type of thing, and that's what I felt with Diaz. He's still a top draw player. He doesn't quite get you the goals and assists that you want probably from one of those wide forward players, but it always felt like a massive risk to change him. It would certainly, and I think this is it, Liverpool look like if a bid comes in for Diaz from PSG or Barcelona, they're the two teams that have been linked the most, then they would consider it. And if that's the case, then they'd probably move for somebody like an Anthony Gordon. Now, the question, I suppose, is if you're going to spend £100 million on a player, why not throw a bid in on Musiala?
Yeah, well, I don't think Bayern are going to sell him. You know what I mean? I think he's a top player, and he's only got 2 years on his deal, by the way. So there could be a move there in the near future, but we're not getting Musiala. Like, I think that's a stretch. But he's unbelievable, isn't he?
He's unbelievable.
Serious player. Yeah.
Serious, yeah. So Anthony Gordon then, mate, and what is it, obviously, for anyone who's watching this for the first time, didn't see the show from a couple of weeks ago, what is it that you like about him in the stats?
It feels like a classic he ticks all the boxes vibe, to be honest. So, if you look at his profile as a whole, there's really not many downsides at all. He's 23 years old, which is perfect. 2 years on his contract, which is perfect. I hate saying this, but only earning 60 grand a week, which means if he comes to Liverpool, we're not going mad with him. You know, it's reasonable in that he's English, he's homegrown.
And that was a contract signed, what?
Yeah, that was not signed very long ago. I think it was a 3.5 year deal he signed, so he's a year and a half into it. 2 years left on it, and that's usually when you either sign a new one or you get sold, basically. I also think, I don't know if this matters, but he is Scouse, isn't he?
It matters. It matters to me. It matters to you. It matters to no one outside of Liverpool.
And he's supposed to be a boy on red. Does that matter?
Definitely matters.
Apparently it matters. It always does seem to matter with fans and that. But I do think if you obviously choose, does it matter? I don't know. You don't go and sign Scott Dan, do you? Because he's Scouse.
No, when they're a good player and they're Scouse, it's different.
Yeah,
when they're a good player and the Liverpool fan, it's different.
Yeah.
Because you just might get that marginal gain from it.
Yeah, I think as that like a little additional perk, it's a nice box to tick and it's a nice thing to have.
Here's a question for you. Flip it on its head. If Curtis Jones goes somewhere else, is he as good as he is for Liverpool?
It's a good point, yeah. It's a good point. I would find it harder to lose Curtis compared to Gravenberch because of that. You know, you feel a bit more attached to those players, don't you? Who came through your academy and all that, and he's a local lad and things. But you know, in addition to Gordon being Scout and all that sort of thing, he obviously is obviously a very good player as well. In the season just gone, he played a lot, which is important. He played.
Well, he was top of that graphic from a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't it in terms of minutes played and stuff like that.
Yeah, out of all the wide forwards in Europe, the ones that we could realistically get, you know, he played the most out of them all. I think he started 34 out of 38 Premier League games last season. Scored 11, assisted 10, so double figures in both departments. Really quick, capable of threatening in behind, can play across the front line, you know, in different spots. So, you know, if you're looking for downfalls, there really isn't many. You know,
listen, if you can get the stats up on my screen now, obviously this is what Josh was talking about in the yellow column there. Looks to me like there was a bit of a jump as well. You know, from what his days were in Everton when it was 4-2, 3-0, 1-0, then all of a sudden 11-10, and 11-10 in a Newcastle side that
finished 7th.
Yeah, they weren't brilliant. You'd expect him to improve those numbers if he was to come into a club like a Liverpool, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and his finishing as well was not particularly amazing. I think since he's been on the Premier League scene, he's actually underperformed his XG by 1 goal. So he's probably as good of a finisher as Diaz is, to be honest. I think maybe he just hesitates a bit less than Diaz. When he actually gets in the box, he gets a shot away quicker, maybe. But yeah, he looks like he's making... I'm not sure if I've referenced this before on this show, but the whole concept of the leap. You know, when a player's...
Yeah, we have, we've talked.
Yeah, well, when a player's one thing and he's becoming something new, he's kind of evolving. Get him then, you know, and it looks like Gordon's probably doing that, really. I mean, we've only got 1 season of Evans of it, to be fair. You know, before that, there's not a lot there, is there?
No, and I think I read something really interesting about that season at Newcastle where he played 16 times and he moved from Everton at 21 years of age. It was on the analyst.com, and they were talking about how difficult it was for Gordon to actually take in and soak up Eddie Howe's knowledge and tactics and stuff like that, Josh, because Eddie Howe asks a lot of his players. And actually I've got a graphic here from the analyst, so I'm just going to find that right now. And just showcase exactly what it was. Now this is sort of early days, 23-24 season, so it wasn't the full season, but it was in terms of pressures. Now for Newcastle, he had more pressures than any other player, and he covered more distance as well for any other player. So 35.5 pressures and a closing distance of 313.7 metres. The next was Callum Wilson with 31.2 with 269 metres. So quite a difference there. Now physically, he's able to continue to press throughout games of football at an incredibly high rate as well, and still impact it in an attacking sense, which is goals and assists and stuff like that. So Gordon got to grips with Eddie Howe's system. It might have taken him half a year, but it is apparently a very difficult system for players to play in. And then we saw, or the start of maybe the leap in year 1 proper of his time at Newcastle.
Yeah, he's definitely got that physical edge to his game. He's obviously he's not like a unit or anything like that, but I've seen interviews with him where he specifically talked about how he deliberately doesn't lift weights or anything like that. He wants to stay relatively lean and agile and that, and he does a lot of yoga and things like that as opposed to
just like me, really.
weightlifting and that. A little bit disappointed about that graphic though. What on earth is distance closed, mate? Distance covered.
Okay. But it's not though, is it? Because he didn't cut. It's fine. Let's pull the other graphic up. Then we got Luis Diaz versus Anthony Gordon with some FB ref stuff here. So got it on the screen right now for you. What are you drawn to here? Because for my eye, they're quite similar in some ways, aren't they? Now, I think he's crossing into the penalty area more as Anthony Gordon, but the progressive passing is about the same. Non-penalty XG and expected assists, Diaz is actually better, but in terms of output, which I know you don't like, Anthony Gordon's better. Tackles and interceptions, Gordon's much better. Goal creating actions via take-on, Gordon's much better, but they are pretty similar, to be fair. So the question that I sort of asked you then was, you know, you were talking about the underlying numbers being helped by the team that they're playing for, and I asked the question of, well, is that like dribbles into the box or carries into the penalty area? What type of stuff are you thinking?
It's probably just a case of Liverpool spend a lot more time in the final third compared to a Newcastle United at the minute. So when you're buying likes of a Jota from Wolves and you're seeing Jota post decent numbers, even though Wolves are kind of like most of the game takes place in the middle of the pitch, Jota's doing a lot of carrying. Same with Bowen with West Ham doing a lot of carrying. You can't help thinking to yourself, right, if we put this fella in a Liverpool team, his numbers should increase just naturally because of the playing style. And I think it's similar with Gordon. I think Eddie Howe is, I wouldn't say he's defensive or anything like that, personally. He is very transition, very counter-attacking and stuff.
Very counter-attacking.
But it's not particularly dominant where he's kind of, you know, the whole game's taking place in one half. So I think whatever numbers Gordon's posting for Newcastle, if you compare it to Diaz, I think Gordon would just post Diaz numbers.
Or maybe better.
And maybe better if he's playing for Liverpool.
Yeah,
and
I see that.
I think if you play Diaz for Newcastle, the same would happen vice versa.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
That's interesting. We've found something else on the analyst that I thought was quite interesting, sort of graph here. For any podcast listeners, it's shots per 90 on the x-axis and goals per 90 on the y-axis now. Oh yes, I remember the way it was. Anthony Gordon, I've just got his name there. He's posted about 2.5 shots per 90. And he's scoring about 0.3 goals per 90. So he's on average scoring somewhere between a goal between 6 and 10 shots. Whereas Luis Diaz down here is posting about 3.5 shots per 90, but scoring between 10 and 18 shots every time. So quite a significant difference in terms of shots. I know you don't like the output side of things, Josh, but for anyone out there wondering where Darwin Núñez is, he's the outlier over here, who has a shed ton of shots and scores about once every 10. And while we keep it on the screen, Diogo Jota is the one who's up here, who doesn't have that many shots but scores basically 1 every 3 shots or something like that. Maybe 1 every 4 shots, I think it is. It says it at the top there, isn't it? Do you buy into any of that?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit. I don't think you'd be getting Gordon in anyway, though, to be necessarily a great finisher for you or to be a better finisher than Diaz. I think you get him in for other reasons, really. I think the big one is probably that he's 4 years younger.
Yeah.
I think he's also, I mean, Diaz is alright at this, but he's also just really comfortable on the flanks. Likes to do dribbling and all that and carrying and that in the wide areas, but he can do the central stuff too. So he's kind of like a two-way, a bit like a Mane. Mane could do both, to a really high level. I'm not sure Gordon will reach Mane levels, but I think he's kind of got that about his game. But in comparison to Diaz, there's not a lot of difference, and this is why I like them shots numbers that you've just posted there in terms of he's scoring every 8 to 10 shots, was it? And Diaz is every 10 to 15 shots or something. Some of that is just flipping a coin, and they could completely reverse next season for reasons we can't even pinpoint really. It just kind of fluctuates like that. I think the big thing with the Diaz one and kind of the idea of swapping them is just whether, from a Liverpool perspective, you would be asked. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of money and contracts and all that for the sake of swapping two players who are really similar. Yeah, the big thing is just one's 4 years younger.
Yeah,
but other than that,
I'm a Liverpool fan.
Yeah. But
I might want to come here, and Diaz might not want to play it anymore.
Well, if Diaz wants to get off,
the rumours are obviously, his dad has been talking about Barcelona for the longest time, and they're the big things that impact it. The big thing, the big difference in terms of playing style for me between the two players is, I think Gordon likes to do that a lot more than Luis Diaz.
On the outside?
On the outside, yeah. And I think Gordon likes to, obviously it's in an Eddie Howe team, but I think he likes to get in behind the defence. And I don't see Diaz doing that. I see Diaz doing a lot more of that, dropping back and picking the ball up and then beating you 400 times before he takes a shot. And that's fine. I'm okay with that, but Gordon likes to be direct as well.
Yeah.
A lot more direct than a Luis Diaz. And I think if you are looking at someone like a Mo Salah, who's maybe potentially past his best now, who's not as fast, I don't think, as he was, we've kind of lost that on the outside, that ability to run past the defence. And I think Gordon does have that, and Diaz doesn't.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think Diaz... Do you think Diaz had that?
I don't know. I've never seen it at Liverpool.
Because he is quick. He is fast. He should be doing it if he's not. I don't know how much he is doing it, to be fair, off the top of my head. Feels like he's a player who can threaten him behind, but I don't know actually how much he does, and it does feel like a lot of it is him getting in these areas and there's loads of players in front of him rather than him being behind them and then shooting with his first touch or something like that. And
maybe that's a consequence of how Eddie Howe set up that Newcastle side, because I've seen so many goals that Gordon scored, or times when he's been in behind the defence, or Alexander Isak is in behind the defence. Liverpool don't really get those situations. It might be how teams play against us, it might be how they set up. But we are quite a direct side as well. You would expect to see Luis Diaz do it more. You remember the time Salah does it. He still does it. You remember Darwin Núñez trying it because he's offside all the time. But Diaz not often.
Yeah.
Not often. Not as often as I think you would want.
One question I've got for you though, just kind of come to mind now. So, if you was to watch the first game of Liverpool's season next term, is it Ipswich?
Yeah, 12:30 kickoff.
And
Away.
you was to watch it, and every single player in red was a silhouette.
Yeah.
And they were all. Would you be able to tell?
Yeah.
If Liverpool had sold Diaz and played Gordon, or if Diaz had stayed, you think you'd be able to tell that?
If it was a silhouette, obviously, because I think he just dribbles more. Like, look at if we can bring that graphic back up. Can we see the touches on that graphic, if possible? If I left them on there, he just has loads more touches than pretty much anybody there. You know, he's right there. Like it's much higher, and I think when you get into the touches in the attack and penalty area and stuff, he's a lot higher as well. So I think I would be able to from a silhouette if it was like Graham Souness vector soccer from the 80s.
I don't know what that is.
Well, no, you wouldn't. It was a computer game where every player was essentially made up of triangles. Don't even look like footballers. Their legs are triangles, their bodies are triangle, and their heads are triangle. Right? I'd find it more difficult. But I still think I could work out that it's Luis Diaz because of the manner in which he beat a player 3 times before he moves on.
Yeah, well, things like that as well.
They're the giveaway.
I think my point saying it was, I don't think a lot of people would be able to tell the difference. And that kind of captures, you'd be going through the sale and the buy and all that. And the actual product on the pitch, I don't think would change that much. So I think if Diaz wants to stay, I do doubt whether Liverpool would do it. But if Diaz wants to get off, that's completely different then. That's a completely different dynamic, and he's a brilliant replacement in that sense. But I just think to force Diaz out the door to get in Gordon, if that's what would happen.
I don't think Liverpool doing that.
Part of me questions that as to whether Liverpool would do it.
I've been saying it for months. I just see people talk about end product with Diaz and stuff like that all the time, but he's a boss player. And there was times when he was our player of the season last season. There was spells where he was, and that's a huge risk more than anything because the next guy might not fit in. Whereas Luis Diaz does fit in. He's just maybe 3 or 4 goals and 3 or 4 assists short of your target.
Another question I've got for you then. Diaz gets sold, you get in Gordon. Yeah. Do you then have any worries about Gakpo? Will Gakpo not look at that and think, mate, you're the spot free for me, that you filled it again? Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Liverpool just buy left wingers is what they always do.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about Gakpo for this season, especially after seeing him in the Netherlands shirt and stuff like that.
But where's he playing for the Netherlands?
Left-hand side.
Exactly.
And that's why I'm really excited about him, because I think there's a chance that he comes in and starts on that left-hand side.
If we buy Gordon, though?
No, I don't think we're buying Gordon.
But if we do, he won't play there, will he?
No.
He'll play somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
And where does he play? Is it centre forward? Is it the 10? It's probably the 10, not the centre forward, because of the manner in which he plays it.
Yeah, I agree. But he's a weird one, isn't he?
Gakpo, yeah. I mean, if Liverpool don't... The big crux of this conversation is we don't need a flipping left winger. We need a right winger.
Well, even that, though, you've got Mo Salah. He just play every week.
Yeah, but he's got a year left in his contract. Rather get the guy in now.
I know, yeah.
And give him a year to learn Arne Slot's tactics and see what Mo Salah does to keep himself in shape and do the business each week. You're better bringing him in and saying, right, you're going to sit now, but next season it's yours, mate.
Yeah, it's tricky, innit? Gordon could play over there a bit, but I don't think he could play there as like Salah's replacement. I think you need, if not a left footer, certainly someone who actually plays there every week and is used to playing there. Gordon plays there and has said, that's my spot, I am best here. Gakpo, same. Diaz, same. The lads over here are a bit more rare, a bit harder to find. I wouldn't like the idea of replacing Salah with someone like who can do it. Szoboszlai or Diaz or Jota or something. You want a lad who does do it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Here's a question for you, because I gave my answer on the podcast, but it'll be interesting to hear yours. Where do you think Jota will play this season?
That's a good question. I think he can genuinely play all 4 of those spots if we're using 4-2-3-1, and I think he can play all 3 of the front spots if we're using 4-3-3. Is this where I would play him, or where I think...
Where you think Slot will play him this season?
It's tough, you know. It is tough. I can see genuine logic behind the 9, the 10, and the left-hand side, not the right. Don't know. I think he'll keep doing what we've seen under Klopp, where he doesn't have a home. Not in a bad way either, because he is that versatile player. Unlike Gakpo, by the way, who we say is versatile and doesn't seem to be.
Oh, here we go again.
Yeah, here we go again, comparing him to Kaka and all this stuff, or whatever it was. No, it wasn't Kaka, was it? It was Havertz.
Yeah.
I got battered for it. Jota is actually versatile. You can kind of play him anywhere in the final third. He'll be a threat. See him last night?
Yeah.
Really good. So I think Jota will play here, here, and here for the most part on the slot, depending on who's available, you know, who's fit and who you're facing and all that stuff. But if I was to pick his best spot, probably that. Do you think?
Yeah.
What did you say out of interest?
I offered up that I don't think Jota will be used on the left anymore.
Okay.
I think there's just too many options out there for him to be thrown out there. I think he's going to be one of these two positions, but I think this one. But from a pressing point of view, in the 4-2-3-1 or whatever, I could see Jota playing in that 10 position, but I think he's going to be the number 9. I think he'll back up Darwin Núñez at the start of the season.
You'll back up him?
I think he'll back up him, yeah. I think if I was to predict Liverpool's starting 11 for Arne's slot, not me, I would go Alisson, Trent, Kanate, Van Dijk, Andy Robertson, McAllister. Really tough one, but I think Bajcetic might get there if he can prove his fitness. If not, I'd just expect to see Endo. I think Harvey Elliott or Szoboszlai will start there. I think Mo Salah will start there. I think Gakpo will start there, and I think Núñez will start there.
That's interesting. So Diaz, even if he's still at the club, doesn't start.
I think so.
Doesn't
I think Gakpo's going to get a run this season, and I'm happy to see it as well.
Yeah, I would be. The only problem is he started last season with a bit of a run.
Yeah.
Klopp was playing him as like an 8.
Yeah.
Just to get him on the pitch because he valued him that much, but he was awful. When I say he was awful, he was anonymous. Like he weren't even playing, touching the ball like 10 times in an hour and that, and it just didn't work. So I'm all for him getting a chance. I just think he looks like the kind of player who look. You can't just throw him on the pitch and say, "Go on, chief." Like you need to kind of. I think Fabregas said recently, see it?
No.
On BBC, he got asked about Gakpo, and Fabregas said he seems like the kind of player to me who needs to be told exactly his role. I think this is exactly what you do and that. And I think if you just kind of try to plug and play him, he gets a bit lost. And I think that goes against what we expected. I didn't expect that. But apparently Dutch players are really like that though. You know, I remember when Alan Partey went over there and managed, and you know, got distracted and all that stuff, and after later when he was talking about it, he was kind of like almost critical of Dutch players, saying like, do you want to be told everything? Do you want to be, you know, where am I playing, what tactics and all this stuff? And Pardew was obviously a bit like, go on lads, you know, and that was kind of it.
Get it in the mixer.
Yeah. So not enough information basically. I think Dutch players want information, yeah.
Okay, well let's carry on with the Luis Diaz, Anthony Gordon stuff. We've got the understats shot maps here, mate. Put them on the screen for you right now. Put the key there this time as well. So green's goal, yellow's post, blue is a saved shot, purple is a blocked shot, and red is a missed shot. Very similar.
Yeah.
More goals, obviously, for Anthony Gordon in last season's Premier League. More goals from the sort of edge of the penalty area where you would expect them to come in and cut in on that right foot. For Gordon, not as many for Diaz. A lot of goals in and around the 8-yard line.
Yeah.
Whereas he doesn't get any from that area where you sort of the Thierry Henry zone.
Yeah, I think generally they're good shots anyway. You know, they're in good areas and that, and he gets a fair few kind of like back stick, you know, alive and late and things like that. If it does feel like Liverpool have kind of lost a little bit of that dynamic though, where someone from the right can cut in onto his left and score by curling it into the far corner. And
Salah doesn't do it no more.
No, and Diaz, as you just shown there, doesn't really do it no more either. So, you know, I think that'd be a nice element to get back. But if you compare Gordon there to, say, for example, Kvaratskhelia, he takes a lot more shots from, like, you know,
outside.
Pot shots, basically, yeah. So Gordon's a bit more a bit more. I think Jota showed up really well for that sort of thing. You know, just playing for a relatively mid-table team, but he just was able to get shots in really valuable little areas and that. And then if you play for Liverpool, you get more chances to get those shots, so you do even better. I think Gordon's. I don't think he's as much of a poacher as Jota, but more so than Diaz.
House.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Okay.
That's what I mean, he's got a good balance of everything.
Yeah, well, the last question I was going to ask is, should Liverpool actively be looking to sell Diaz to bring in someone? But I think we've kind of already answered that. I think both of us don't think that should be the case. In terms of the front line, go on.
It's just depending on who, does he want to go though or not, you know, and is the interest in him. If there's interest in him, genuine.
And he wants to go.
Yeah, and he, you know, he is 27. This lad who we're getting linked with is 23. So he would be technically like for sale if you want, in my head. You wouldn't say that, but I'd be interested in it. But
open to offers.
Yeah, open to offers is the word. Yeah, but there's no way I'd be like, you know, please take this fella off our hands. He's nowhere near like a Martial or something. Or
like the way that Newcastle were with Anthony Gordon last week.
yeah. What was you going to say?
I was going to ask you, if you had a budget of 80 to 100 million pounds to spend on the front line, where are you investing it?
What I liked about the original Liverpool was we bought players who were genuinely versatile, didn't have a fixed spot. Mane, Firmino, Salah, they were all kind of like multifunctional forwards. We got linked with Nkunku at one point and apparently turned it down. Diaz again, similar. So I like buying forwards like that who don't lock you into a specific spot. So I think we're right going for a forward. Gordon's absolutely perfect in my eyes. Like someone like that, Moussa Diaby comes to mind too. We're not going to get him because he's a Villa. But if he weren't a Villa, I think we'd be interested in him. He's really two-footed. Kvaratskhelia, two-footed. Someone like that, you know, someone with output and versatility, good age, you know, that sort of thing for the forward line. But I can see why you want to start thinking about replacing Mo, because you don't want to do that when he actually leaves, do you? In the same summer, that's the problem, like. So, but finding his replacement is hard.
Yeah, it really is. So there you go. I think we've sort of summarised pretty well over the course of the video. We understand the reasons that Liverpool are linked with Anthony Gordon. We understand why he's wanted. We understand why a lot of people want Anthony Gordon as well. But we're probably a little bit.
What I would say, by the way, when Liverpool knew Coutinho was leaving, we got Salah in anyway, and we played with Coutinho, Mane, Firmino, and Salah for about 6 months. So, if we know Diaz is going, or even if we know Salah is going in the next 12 months, I suppose you could just get Gordon in and play with them all for 6 to 12 months, knowing that one's getting off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we've got Jota, we've got Kakpo.
Yeah, I know.
It's the numbers game sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, it'd leave 6, but we've got a lot
to that left.
Yeah, but we've got a lot of tournaments and a lot of versatility in there. So, you know, just doing that for as again 6 months, 12 months until you sell one of them, I don't think it's out of the question. So, although I think Gordon, you probably do need to sell someone to get him in, I wouldn't strictly go with that. You know what I mean? I think it's possible that you end up just playing with them all for a year.
I think Gordon will move to Liverpool. I just don't think it'll be this summer. I think now the door's been opened, I think it's going to be very hard to shut it. I think he's probably had his head turned. Well,
I've seen him reports. Yeah. The only thing is, if his head's turned and all that, and they're doing all that stuff,
you can't unturn a head. It's impossible.
But then,
didn't just do it then.
What happens for the next year though? He's going to get battered by Newcastle fans or something. Or?
Well, they've come out with the big PR stuff of no, it'll be like a bothered Newcastle fan and all this type of stuff. No. And the other thing in all this now is if the owners of Newcastle don't want to sell, they've got the money to not sell. Like if he goes there and kicks up a stink, they could just go, I don't give a shit. Okay. Yeah. Stay there.
I know. I'm thinking about it from Eddie Howe's perspective though. Like, will he want that in his camp? You know what I mean? And
probably not.
They do have PSR issues where I think they think that they've solved it
for this season.
But they don't actually know.
Yeah, well, next year is going to be a problem in and of itself again, isn't it? So there you go. That has been the deep dive on Anthony Gordon. I've been Chris Pajak, that's been Josh Williams. Thank you very much for watching and for listening. We'll see you next time. Ciao.